absolutely capitalism and labor have never gotten along. If you go back, I mean, we had to fight to get 8-hour work. I mean, we used to. I mean, they had child labor. We had to get rid of child labor laws. We had to fight to get 8 hours a day, where they were working people damn near 24 hours a day. And so, labor and capitalism have never been friends because they don't want to pay you.
Yeah.
I don't know why they don't want to pay a person, but they don't want to pay you.
Well, because they want all the money and they want you to be powerless so that you will remain subservient to them. You need them. It's a horrible dynamic, but we see it in work relationships. We see it in marriages, which is going to bring us to our next topic. As you mentioned earlier, we had 2 wife beaters leave the White House this week. Presidential aide Rob Porter, who oddly enough was also or still is dating press assistant Hope Hicks, who is alleged to be having an affair with Donald Trump. This fucking dynasty. But he was thrown out / resigned this week. And then after that, David Sorensen, who is a speechwriter for Trump, who was also known to, or alleged to have beaten his wife.
But who's the one?
Porter had 2 ex-wives that he beat.
Right. Well, one of them, they showed a picture.
Yeah.
And she had a black eye.
Mm-hmm. And he said, well, that's out of context. I took that picture. And of course, Donald Trump, well, he says he's innocent, so we wish him well. It's a shame. It's horrible that this happens. And whereas of course, I think it's deplorable, to coin a word. Trump has to take that tack, because once he starts pointing the finger at other people for, sexual assault, then the story becomes, well, what about those 12? How come no one else is lying except for the 12 women who say you sexually assaulted them?
Wait a minute. Remember, that's what got him in trouble when he said they were bad on both sides with the racial issue. Well, they were both bad on both sides. No, this guy brutally beat his wife. And you didn't know, and he's in your cabinet. You should be outraged.
And for the record, really, any beating of your wife is frowned upon in the Let's Be Treason. It's not. It doesn't have to be brutal. Like even a mild beating, we're not cool with that.
Anything, yeah. But I'm just saying, you know, we have already going on with the Me Too movement, and you got this guy working in your cabinet, working with you. He's your aide, and he's beaten 2 wives. And both wives came out and stated.
But they knew. That's the crazy thing, is they knew and they didn't do anything.
Oh, listen to the general. What's his name?
General
Kelly.
Well,
the story broke this week that, he has known about this since before the inauguration. It was, something that he should have known in his position, because the allegations of spousal abuse were holding up Porter's security clearance. Mm-hmm. And then the story broke this week that allegedly Kelly told his staff to push the story that, as soon as he found out about the allegations, he asked Porter to resign within 40 minutes.
This is the same guy who just talked about the role. They didn't sign up because they were lazy.
Right. And that, we were talking about conspiracy theories earlier. For anyone who isn't familiar, General Kelly, the chief of staff at the White House, earlier this week was talking about children, dreamers who did not register for, renew their status because they were afraid to go in and potentially be arrested and deported, or they were too lazy to get their asses up off the couch.
Yeah.
This is what he said. So I mentioned conspiracy theory earlier. I don't necessarily believe that this is true, but if you think about it, it kind of makes sense. Kelly at this point knows there is no way he is going to get out of the Trump administration with any shred of his dignity intact.
Right.
So knowing that he isn't going to be able to go out on top, maybe now he's thinking, I should just focus on getting out soon. So you had the statement about the Dreamers last week. You have him totally mishandling the dismissal of this wife beater. And then yesterday, Kelly said, look, if he wants me to resign, I will turn in my resignation. If you ever saw the movie An Officer and a Gentleman, with Richard Gere and Lou Gossett Jr., I am just like picturing, Lou Gossett Jr. leaning over General Kelly screaming, DOR, drop on request, DOR. He's engineering his own downfall so that he doesn't have to go down with the ship. He doesn't want to ride this terror train out any longer.
Right. You can't, after a while. And where is Miss Huckabee at? Because Huckabee.
She's been kind of quiet.
Yeah, good old Huck. Probably eating fried squirrel.
I think her
and
face
Coke
finally
with her
just
dad.
melted. I think she's completely melted.
The Ark of the Covenant has been opened.
Yeah. Because she could spin this shit. And where's Conway at? I haven't heard her speak on the wife beating.
Well, I
the
think
beating.
they've been trying to keep her off of TV for a while, but I did see her in pictures with Hope Hicks in the Oval Office.
Well, because Anderson Cooper, the last time he spoke to Conway, he was busting up laughing. They showed him he's got that. Anderson Cooper got that crazy laugh. Ha ha ha. And it's just. And so
is that how he left?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Good one.
That's a callback.
That's a callback.
If you don't know what I'm talking about, listen to previous episodes of Let's Be Treasonable.
Yeah. And so, she, does these little. I guess he has that little laugh that he does, and he was cracking up. But I don't know. You got to be good to sit there and lie for this guy. But I play golf with guys and they are Trump supporters all the way. He could do no wrong. They're never satisfied. They're never satisfied.
I was talking to a guy who I speak to less and less frequently because it's just too much at this point. But he was saying that if they try to impeach Trump, there's going to be civil war on our hands.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But you know what? I don't think that is that unreasonable.
This is the same guy that wants a parade. He wants us to do that.
Yeah, he wants his Nazi style. Military parade.
88% of America said you better not do it. We don't need this crap. We don't do this. Dictators do this. China does this. North Korea does.
They're even trying to go the rational way of explaining the money that would be spent on this parade could take care of so many veterans.
Right.
So true. So true. It can help the VA.
I have always understood that. You know what? And they never talk about it. But if you do the history of the soldier, they've never taken care of the soldier. Even back to the 1700s when they first started, getting in, fighting for America and going through the 1800s and everything, they did not take care of the soldier. They never have. I don't care. Even when we had, World War II and they talk about, the GI Bill and all these different things. No, they did not take care of the soldier. They never have.
You know what? I think it's something that is a very obvious problem with our government. Is they, we saw this especially with Obama as president dealing with a Republican Congress. They'll put up a framework,
right?
Or they'll even create a program, do something that has the potential to do good. And by do good, I mean fix problems that have been created by the government structures. Right. But then they get political and they refuse to fund them.
Right.
We created it. I don't see the problem. Well, freaking Mick Mulvaney requesting no funding for the consumer protection.
Right.
What the hell? It's great to have, and this is one of the problems when you get all these rich people running stuff, because they understand having things, but apparently they don't understand taking care of things.
Right. Well, when you think about
their solution,
what they haven't taken care of,
we'll pay Mexico to take care of that.
Now, what's the new narrative now? That the soldiers kept you safe. Well, everyone's talking about how dare they take a knee because this guy. No, he also fought so you'd have the way to be able to do that. Plus, that's part of our Constitution, to be able to speak. It's in the amendments and everything else, to be able to speak and say what you want and do what you want. That's why it's called the land of the free.
Right,
Yeah.
but as we were saying before, as long as they keep the conversation focused on Colin Kaepernick and all those other quote-unquote sons of bitches in the NFL, as long as they can shift the narrative to, rather than acknowledging that these people are engaging in peaceful protest against police brutality, they're protesting against the troops and the flag.
Yeah.
You keep it there, and you get the veterans and the people who support the veterans all hyped up on that they don't have the time to actually talk about, well, what are you actually doing for the veterans?
Yeah.
What are you
But
doing to take care of these problems?
To steer things back on course to the Rob Porter thing and all of that, there's the possibility that this is Kelly structuring his way out, or the sadder reality, which is that no one cares if somebody beats their wife in that administration, and those people have a culture that does not really think it's a big deal to beat your wife. So that's why they let the guy in. That's why they didn't care that his clearance was being held up by that. That's their actual value. We're seeing their true nature revealed and exactly how they feel about women. And some people who are pro-life will argue like, oh, we're pro-life, we love women, like we're the true people who care about women.
Right.
No,
because your people are letting their
real quick, that brings up another story that broke this week, which when we talked about why are these quote-unquote pro-life people so, bent on saving the children. Trump's campaign chair in Kentucky, who was a judge, there are pictures of him and Mitch McConnell, he pled to lower the charges of basically child sexual abuse, child sex trafficking. So this is why this is the sanctity of life. This is what they're trying to protect. Save the children so that,
Well, they also locked up that
we
judge.
can sell them off.
They locked up the judge who was giving, he was getting money to give some black kids more time in jail.
Oh, that's disgusting.
He got 25 years. He'd been doing it for years.
Wow.
And he was working for private prisons. And he was giving paid a certain amount of money to give more time to certain black kids who were in for criminals that like a bag of weed, they'd end up and get 5-10 years. Well, shit, he'd get damn near $100,000 for that.
Wow.
He made his money off of it.
This reminds me of that phrase, when you point a finger, three are pointing back at you. And that's what I see here with this whole thing. If you go back to the judge with the children and the sex trafficking, Pizzagate was all about pointing at Democrats, all about pointing at our political system, and pointing at gays. I watched some of the YouTube videos, and it's very homophobic. Like it focused on a particular gay band lead singer. Or at least someone who was very effeminate, maybe trans, I don't know. But it used that guy's voice to quote unquote creep out people who are watching that and feel like, oh yeah, that's definitely a child molester. Yeah. And here they are putting all of that on Democrats when their own freaking judge, and did you say campaign chair?
Yeah.
Campaign
for the state
chair
of Kentucky.
is involved in child sex trafficking.
What
That
about
is
the family of
insane.
13? That just got busted for the home. I mean, the guy.
Those whack jobs out in Paris.
Okay, they did the same thing in Texas. They were allowed to. They had 13 kids.
Oh,
and they were not. They were malnourished and they were abused. They weren't allowed. They were kept in cages. And mind you, this is white family, 13 kids. All this, we're into God and there was this and the Lord, and look what you're doing.
Honestly, I think part of what's so important about public schooling is that you get teachers who can have their eyes on children, see when a kid comes in and the kid is bruised, see when a kid comes in and that kid is malnutritioned, and call the authorities. And the threat.
But that was homeschool.
Yes, that's what I'm getting to, is that when kids are homeschooled, when that becomes the norm, you don't have that oversight. You don't have somebody checking in on the welfare of these kids.
And he was the principal. Well, because you don't think that what father do you know would chain up his child? Remember, these evangelicals are saying we